evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I love that saying, eh? Every single time I do a Toastmaster speech, we start with saying good evening, good afternoon, good morning, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and what else do we say? And visitors. My name is Kofi Simpson. I am currently the president of Fifth Dimension Toastmasters, and I have the honor of having to start the first podcast for Division 74. And the name of the podcast is Beyond the Podium. And today I have a very special guest who I recently met this year and who's doing wonders within the Toastmasters space and outside of the Toastmasters space, and we're going to have a conversation around that. For me, Toastmasters has been a platform where I've been able to express myself in various different ways. I don't act, and I think I have an acting personality, but it's giving me that platform, and we've decided to start a Toastmasters podcast to talk about Toastmasters related things and to engage with fellow Toastmasters who are doing things within the industry, and for us to talk about their experience with Toastmasters and for us to have a conversation. For me, being part of Toastmasters, one of the things that I've gained is I've realized that it's actually very diverse, and communication is diverse in terms of we can have a debate. We need to learn how to debate. Yes, we write speeches, but we also do toasts. We also have podcasts, and we also have conversations. And there's a pathway that I see that people don't take advantage of, is that podcast pathway. And hopefully we're going to be able to ignite that. But anyway, let's get straight to it and have a conversation with our first guest. And I must say, Thulisile Mgidi, welcome to the first official episode of District 74 podcast, Beyond the Podium, hosted by Kofi Simpson. This has been something that has been coming for a very, 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 very long time. And I've had conversations, I've had this idea. Brighton and even Leah have been on my case. Let's do this podcast. And now we are finally here. So I want to know that you are my first. And I've seen things on social media. First. You will always be my first and my first experience. Yeah. And I've seen things on the socials and the posting, but it seems like this is not your first, and you've had quite a number of interviews and conversations. So I'm really excited to unpack.
Thank you so much, Kofi, for having me and for being the first. I think for me that is so exciting, especially in the Toastmasters space, something that makes up a huge part of my life. I think this is very, very exciting. Yes, I have been in just a couple of podcasts previously, and it's been a great experience. I think this is the new way of putting information out there. Okay. I think that is really where a lot of info is going towards. You know, people don't spend time on TV and watching TV programs per se like in the past. Instead, people want things on demand. Yeah. So I want to know that I can go to something that's specific to Toastmasters and find out more about this or more about people that are in that space. And this is what it allows us. And I think great and wonderful things are going to come from this podcast.
Okay. So that's great. Yeah, I totally understand that. I've realized I haven't even switched on my TV in a while. Why do I even have a TV? See? Is it for when guests come over? And my phone is just filling all that space beyond the reading and beyond the TikToks and those kind of things and YouTube, etc., etc.
I don't have TikTok.
You don't have TikTok?
I know I have an addictive personality. I've taken the choice to. I have never downloaded TikTok.
Never?
I don't have an account. I made the decision during COVID in 2020. You need to know yourself. Self-awareness is important. Yeah. And I already knew from things like Instagram that I do have an addictive personality. Okay, cool. I was like, you're just going down a rabbit hole. And I saw it with friends, and I'm sure you see it with your life.
No, I'm not addicted to it. I have a short span. No, I can do 2 to 3 or 5 even max, and then I move on. So it has an addictive.
You're better than others.
I interview people for a living, and I guess normally people ask, who are you? Tell us about yourself. I have your CV in front of me, but I would like you to tell me more about Thulisile Mgidi. Yes.
Currently, Thulisile Mgidi is a lady from a Ndebele family born in KwaNdebele in Mpumalanga. I come from a family with 2 other siblings with a huge age gap between myself and my siblings. I'm 11 years older than my sister and 17 years older than my brother. So co-parenting is a very real thing in my life. And the family dynamics of my life is one of the most important. Family is very important to me. My family has supported me through various chapters of my life. And by that I mean my parents directly as well as my siblings. So that's who I am. I'm somebody who qualified and studied accounting sciences. I did articles. I had the dream of becoming a chartered accountant. I then took the decision to pivot my career and not complete the journey of becoming a chartered accountant. Instead, I am a associate general accountant registered with SICA. That is me from a professional standpoint. And then as I pivoted, I am a certified coach. So I am in the space and workplace where I coach young people. I am somebody who believes and defines success by making a difference in somebody's life. And that is what has navigated me towards the pivot in my career space and what I currently do. For me, it's all about what difference can you make and how do I leave the world a better place than what I walked into.
Very interesting. And let's talk about Toastmasters. Who are you?
In Toastmasters.
Or who were you? What is your Toastmasters journey?
So my Toastmasters journey, I joined Toastmasters in 2021. I had the goal, or I had a 30 before 30 bucket list.
Okay.
So I turned, and before I turned 30, one of the things I wanted to do was join Toastmasters. So public speaking and speaking has been something that has always been a part of my life. However, I do believe that there is lifelong learning and there's always space for improvement and getting better at whatever skill or gift that you may have. And that was when I decided to join Toastmasters. I'd seen other colleagues who are a part of Toastmasters. I visited the club that I'm still currently a member of, and I really like the learning element. So things like your evaluations, the role of the grammarian, those for me are such amazing roles that are consistently keeping you on your feet in how do I learn and how do I get better. And of course, as well, because I'm somebody who loves the space of public speaking, I wanted to also add credibility to that. When I'm emceeing events, it's important and it adds value to you as a MC, as a facilitator of panel discussions to say, you know what, I actually have the skill for this, not just the gift, but I'm always honing and making sure I get better at it. And that's where Toastmasters comes in. So in my leadership roles at Toastmasters, I'm a member of Moving Forward Toastmasters Club. Yeah, I think in my second year of joining Toastmasters, in my first leadership role, I was the treasurer of my club, of course, with my auditing background. That's how it got to that part. Thereafter, I had a great desire to become the VPE of my club because I felt the role of a Vice President of Education. Yes, because I felt in that role, that is one of the roles that you really get to learn more about Toastmasters. It opens up your eyes to the pathways to everything and how do you hold other people accountable to meet their goals and dreams. Unfortunately, because we had a bit of a leadership vacuum at the club and we needed somebody to step up to president, I could then not become VPE and I went straight to become the president of my club. And currently, I am the immediate past president of my area. So this is under District 74, Division F in Area 5. So last year, it was called Area 5. There's been some tweaks and changes, and I believe this year it's Area 4. That's my journey. I'm somebody who's been part of contest as well. Contest is the main reason why this year I've taken a decision to step back from leadership, because when you are in certain leadership roles within Toastmasters, you aren't allowed to then compete in contests. So you need to choose every year. You need to choose what is it that you want to prioritize. And this year I've taken the decision that I want to focus on my educational, because I'm currently at my level 5 of my pathway. So I want to complete my level 5, and I also then want to go back to competing in contest as well.
Okay. So pathways, which pathway are you doing?
I'm doing persuasive influence.
Okay. Is this your first, second, third, fourth?
My
pathway?
Hey,
You see, leadership. 2021. 2021.
Guys, no, I know the Toastmasters journey is interesting. You know, I had my colleague or my boss, actually, she had joined Toastmasters for a brief period. And she said in her first meeting that she came, she was judgmental at why people were not completing their pathways. And then she joined and went to it, and she was like, oh, now I get it. She was like, this thing is not as easy. But I mean, there are Toastmasters out there that really make it seem like it's that easy. I mean, they go to multiple clubs, they do multiple projects at a time, and they finish levels, like even just finishing a level in a month. I'm just like, oh. But yeah, it's possible.
I found the formula.
What's the formula? Please share.
One, do not overthink it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about contest at this point in time, right?
Yes.
And what I guess I didn't mention is I am a divisional champion. Fortunately, in the international speaking, table topics, and evaluation. So we might be competing soon. But going through that journey taught me that sometimes this thing is inherent and sometimes it's learned. And this thing, what I mean is public speaking or speaking. We all speak. And you've got to practice. And when you get to a point where you're very comfortable, to the point where you can stand up and give a speech. Because honestly, when you are at a birthday, when you're at a farewell, someone asks you something and you have to respond and answer, or I really miss you, I think you were great, you did this, etc., etc., etc. And those are how speeches are done. So every single day we're doing speeches, practically, and that's how I see it. So if you're going to overthink it and want to write it and want to be a perfectionist in that, it might delay, and that was my start. Secondly, there's a pathway. And what I'm trying to instill in my club is that within that pathway, there are different ways of communication. There's the speech writing. There is a debate. There is giving a social speech where you have 30 to 70 minutes, you can do it twice. Do you really need to rehearse and practice for that? Yes and no specifically. There is this podcast that we are doing that you can, there is managing a difficult audience.
Is this one of your projects?
It's one of my projects. There's so multitude of different things, and I think that becomes a challenge. So for me, that's how I see it specifically within that. But I mean, you're talking about going to contest. Have you ever moved into any area related roles, area director?
Yes, I was previously the area director of my area, and in the Rosebank sort of area under District 74.
And when was that?
That's now. I'm immediate past president. So I just finished my term in June of 2025.
Okay, cool. So you're saying that next year you're going to compete?
Yeah, I mean, we're already in the new Toastmasters year.
Okay.
But yes, essentially.
In February.
Yes, that is the goal, is to compete again.
Okay, we might. And this is what I like about the Toastmasters thing, is that we can both be competing, but I'm still giving you feedback on how you can beat me.
That is the whole thing, we are always evaluating each other, and we're always giving each other guidelines. And I think it's a unique way of, we call it contest, and it is a competition, but it is a learning experience, I think, for everybody who is doing it. And therefore, I've never felt in Toastmasters that, oh my gosh, this is just mine, so I just want to keep it to myself. Everybody gives freely and willingly, and that then is a behavior that you, as somebody who's new, who joins Toastmasters, you just continue that. So I do think that's why there's never the hold on of like, no, she's going to be my competition, let me not. I mean, I got some of my best tips as well when I was competing, people saying, hey, consider this. And I mean, I didn't know. I tell the story often that I had a big boohoo in the contest that I did, in that I never knew, and nobody told me, that you do the same speech and you improve on it each and every time. Did I not have a different speech for club? I had a different speech at area, and then a different speech when I got to division. And only, I think, at division, somebody's like, but I watched you in area. Why are you doing a different speech? And I was like, because I thought that's what I'm supposed to do. So that's always the first thing that I tell anybody who's doing contest. I'm like, improve on the same speech
all the
and
time.
get better and get feedback from other individuals that are there. So I had a whole theme planned out for each level of contest.
My experience in my club, I'm part of two clubs. I'm part of Fifth Dimension as president, and I'm part of Four Ways Firebrands, right? And this year I represented District 129.
Yes.
People are like, we've only heard you give one speech. Because I was in contest, and all I did
everywhere
was I evaluated table topics and I gave the same speech, right? And for me, that was the most growth that I got in my Toastmasters experience. The feedback, I went to different clubs, so the feedback was very, very consistent. Will be honest, maybe I struggled to implement some of the stuff, but the feedback was consistent. It made me feel comfortable. It gave me confidence by just doing one thing over and over again. And then one of my club members was like, but we've only heard you give one speech. And then I was like, after contest, you saw me as Toastmaster of the day for 1 month. Mm-hmm. Every single week I was Toastmaster of the day. And in between there, I was learning different speeches. But someone is thinking that it's just a conventional way of doing things. So I would come Toastmaster of the day, give a 3-4 minute speech about something, and kind of made me evolve, right? Mm. But since I've never heard your speech, but I'm going to give you a tip. Mm. As much as that experience may have stumbled you at that point, you have 3 different speeches. No one is saying you need to go create new speeches. You've got the foundation of those 3 speeches. You've got foundation of those 3 different speeches or 4 different speeches that you can hone in, and you can spend the next 4 to 6 months before contest or even during contest testing out those speeches. Because I think that what I've realized, and this is the stumbling block that I'm in now, is I also want a different speech. And now I'm overthinking the writing of the speeches, and you have something in arsenal. Now, my contest speech was my icebreaker. So the first speech, it took me a year to even give a speech.
That was your icebreaker?
That was my icebreaker.
Sorry.
It evolved. I had to remove what I did from my career, and I just centered it around that. That was the first speech. It took me a whole year to even write that because I was overthinking. Sure. And now you want to make it perfect. And I'm not saying that I still have the same challenge, and I've given 2 speeches since contest, but I've done other things, and I haven't written those speeches. I've just stood up and I've spoken for 5 to 7 minutes. And I've been Toastmaster of the day at different clubs. Same theme, different theme, mixing it up. And I'm just trying to find out like what formula works from a practice perspective.
I think it differs for different people in terms of preparation.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's as comfortable on the platform or on the stage, on the podium, as what we might be. So not everybody can top of them, because it's almost like you put yourself in table topics, but for longer duration all the time. Other people, and I think to any Toastmasters who are watching, especially new Toastmasters, you need to also find yourself in it. Because it isn't necessarily that what works for you will work for me.
Yes.
And so forth. So part of this journey of learning is learning yourself and discovering yourself and what works for you. There'll come a point where you know how much preparation time I should put in. And over time, that might become less and less. But it is just about the self-discovery, because I've done it too, where I'm like, oh, shucks, I committed that I'm doing a speech tonight, so I need to show up and I need to do the speech. And
toughest job of VPE,
and you do it. And afterwards, you're like, oh, all right, that actually was not so bad. But not everybody can do that. And afterwards, I get the comments of like, oh, that was so fun. I'm like, I literally just did that like an hour, 2 hours before, or just thought of, what to do. So yeah, I just want to nudge and caution on it. It's about also knowing yourself and your strengths and how much work, because as well, you need to understand my reasons for joining Toastmasters are very different, and everybody has their why.
Yes.
Why have you joined Toastmasters? And my why was not necessarily improve or be able to speak in public. I could do that. But my why also was because I came from an auditing background. My circle, my network was made up a lot of auditors, CAs, accounting people. And I wanted to expand that network. And I also saw Toastmasters as a platform and an opportunity where I can expand that network as well. So I felt I came with the gift already. It's just about how do I get better and see some blind spots and so forth with the gift. Whereas we have a lot of people that join clubs who are terrified of speaking. Public speaking is the second biggest fear in the world. And so to them, it's baby steps to try and ultimately get there.
Yeah, it's baby steps, but I think one of the things I'm highlighting and through my experiences, same as you, there was a why. I thought it was easy. I was that guy when you are in group work in varsity. I will stand up, I will speak. It will take me, I'll grasp the concept very quickly. We'll all have discussions. I'm there, I'm not there, but I could stand up and speak. And it was point of me coming to Toastmasters was to elevate myself to another level, right? But in me even doing that, writing the speech was a thing that I struggled with. And I've discovered that maybe speech writing is not necessarily my strength. And that's something that I need to work on. But the one thing that I learned, and it's just going to the principle of, I don't know if you've done music before.
You never did. Ago.
Did you do music in school?
Very long time
Did you
ago.
play piano, violin?
No,
What's
that hectic. I think we had it as a subject somewhere along there. Not the way you choose your subject, but like way before,
Same principle I'm saying is whether you're in the choir or you played an instrument. When you're in choir, you sing, you keep repeating. When you're in piano, you keep practicing. And what I'm saying that the public speaking thing, for someone to get comfortable and find themselves, is you've got to put yourself in that environment and you've got to keep going. And then after a while, you get to a point where you are like, I'm comfortable, you know. But I think the way life works is probably even Usain Bolt, when he used to run, or any athlete, even the Springboks, when they're lining up for a match, they are nervous, and those nerves are part of it and how you navigate around it.
I always say that for me, the nerves show me that this still matters. Every time that I MC an event,
you MC,
or I have to facilitate a panel, there are nerves, but the joy that I have of being behind the mic, as soon as you switch on the mic or the cameras come on, it's like, we've got this.
All the cameras come on.
Yeah.
But I want to take a slight pause from Toastmasters. You talked obviously from a professional perspective, being a CA. These terminologies, accounting science. I studied accounting science, but I just want to understand the CA part of you. And you've also mentioned that you are in facilitation or something different. So let's touch a bit on this CA experience,
so
or this accounting,
CA.
or
it's
psych.
Yes, I'm not a CA. However, I've obviously taken what you may call the traditional journey that was supposedly supposed to get there, because that was ultimately the goal from the time I left high school. I studied at the University of Pretoria.
I love that university. Anyway.
So I studied there, and then I transferred and I graduated at UNISA. I did my postgraduate diploma at UNISA, but level 1. So we have at UNISA, they have level 1 and level 2, CTA level 1, level 2. Only level 2 allows you to write the PSYCA board exams. Okay, cool. Essentially. So I've not done CTA level 2, which would allow me that. But my postgraduate is in itself an equivalent NQF level 8. Okay. So from there, I started doing my articles. I already started doing my articles actually while I was still studying. Okay. Again, this to me was testament to sometimes it's not what you know, it's how you navigate the networks that you have. So I've always been a student at Tax. I was involved in everything. I was chairperson of House CA, which is the Society for Accounting Students. I was part of the faculty house of the Faculty of Economic Management Sciences. And then I went on and I ultimately was on the SRC. So I've always been, when people ask me in my life, all the various things that I'm involved in, it's always been the nature of of Thulisile, being involved in a lot of things. And similarly, when I then started working at Mazars, Mazars Gauteng, now known as Forvis Mazars, I was also involved. As I was not just focused on, I'm here to do my articles and I'm just focusing on that, but then I was involved in the social committee. I was then the chairperson of the clerks committee, so the committee for the trainees, and say, like being an advocate for them and speaking to the partners. We want more socials, or we want pay our overtime, or whatever it is at the time, and also part of women empowerment. These are all things that matter, that are important to me. It's transformation, empowerment of women and young people. And it still breeds into what I'm doing today and in the space that I'm in today. And I stayed on after my articles to be an audit senior. But I always knew, as I was finishing articles, I knew that I wouldn't stay in audit more than 2 to 3 years. That is literally, I had said it to myself. And when the 2 years hit, everything in my body said, okay, 2 years is up. It's now time to navigate and move. And when I was doing my articles, things such as mentoring and coaching, my juniors, my trainees came naturally to me. It wasn't a KPI tick box exercise. It was really, how do I add value in this other person's life? And that's why when I ended up navigating to where I am today, it was an easy navigation. Even my partners at the audit firm, when I told them what it is that I'm going to do.
Your partners at an audit firm?
Yes, I mean the partners.
The partners, okay.
Yes, the audit partners, the big bosses.
No, the word partner was just like... But
no,
anyway, the partners, the bosses.
The bosses at the audit firm, they understood, they wanted to counter, but I'm like, this is not a money decision, this is a purpose decision. And unfortunately, there's no countering purpose. And so I left audit, and at the time in 2022, I joined Novalo Learning Center. Again, as I said earlier, my success, I see it as making a difference in people's life. And at Novalo, we carry the why of breaking the cycle of poverty through education. And for me, there was a full alignment of my purpose and my fulfillment and what this organization, and I always tell young people that I coach as well, that in any relationship, there has to be an alignment of values. Yes. And a lot of the time, if there isn't, that's when there's friction and clashes. And people forget that, and as much as that's true for friendships, for relationships, romantic ones, whatever, it's also true for the work environment.
For the work environment.
As well.
So some people are in the wrong workspace and probably even the wrong job.
It's what you're saying. When you're interviewing, people forget that it's a conversation. As much as the employer is trying to get to know you better, are you a fit? You should be going in there and saying, are you a fit also for me?
Okay,
and sometimes that element is lacking. And you can then see it over time, that there is a disconnect between the person, the employee, and the employer based on the organization's values. And values can be carried out in different ways. You can say what your values are, but how the organization runs and how it drives those values is something else.
So I understand from the employer perspective, right?
Yes.
But now from the employee perspective, the prospective employee, you have 5 to 7 minutes to ask questions. How do employees actually try to ascertain that, is this the right place for me? Because sometimes you'll have people that will say, this is our environment, we have these benefits, we do this growth, all these kind of things. But when you get in, there could be like a different experience. And I was actually listening to something on Metro FM, they're talking about like, assessing jobs and finding opportunities. And someone was saying like, no, find someone in the bank and ask questions. But then the lady was like, but if I'm a graduate and I don't know any people in there, like how do you kind of like ascertain that?
I almost say, unfortunately, it's also an experience thing. The more you do it, the more you find out what matters to you. And I say that because one of my former employers, there was a mismatch of my values and the organization values. And my instinct, my gut feeling told me on the day of the interview. I knew. I walked out of there knowing that something is not right. And very often people do get that feeling. But out of desperation, I'm a graduate, I need a job. You're going to take anything. Do you understand? But I think you take it knowing that, don't forget that you had that feeling. Because even after I left, I knew that there was an instinct, and I'm somebody who believes in spirit, being guided by spirit, that there was a warning. I felt it in my gut that said to me, there's something about this line manager that I was just like, no. 3 months in, I was like fully convinced. I was like, yeah, this is not a long time. It's a short time thing because there's just a disconnect. So it is unfortunate, but I knew that also because of what I've previously experienced. I know I've been in environments where I do feel valued. I can feel that I'm adding value. My line manager sees it and so forth. And so over time, you also learn that. Fortunately, in the space of accounting and auditing, the fortunate part is that we work in different teams. So when you work in different teams, if for 3 months I'm working with this manager, for another 3 months with this manager, it allows me then to also learn what kind of leadership style, being led, do I also want to be led by? Because we work for one organization, but every time I'm with a different audit team, I have a different experience.
With different people. And I like what you said. I think there was this employer that I joined and I never enjoyed the product, you know? And the product was amazing, doing very well. But there was just something that was telling me. So I don't even understand the product and the love of the product that is doing amazing. And I did not even want to use the product. But I guess
that says a lot, eh? Because I also was in an environment of sort of like a service product organization. And if you can't authentically vouch for that product, there's a problem in itself. Because I would think that any employees of a brand, of an organization, you should be the first ambassadors of that organization, of that brand. And as somebody who, anything that I associate with, I want to carry fully. Do you understand? So when there's a disconnect in that, I know that I'm not showing up also as my authentic self. Yeah. And you also see it the more you discover and you learn of yourself in your 20s, because I think your 20s are about self-discovery, and allow them to be fluid, learn new things. The more you will also realize what does work for you in the work context and what doesn't work for you. And it's up to you whether you stick to that, to what you know to be true to yourself, or not. We can't all make the same decisions at the same time in the same way.
So I see the coaching side of you is coming through this conversation. I think that we should transition slowly to that. But before we even get to the coaching, now accounting, now you're in coaching, you're in a training center. Please help me understand the transition from accounting to obviously coaching. And I think most people will say that that's a pivot.
Yes, it definitely was.
Yeah, so please help us understand how you pivoted. And before we carry on, I was actually speaking to someone about 2 weeks ago, and she was like, I've started to realize that there are a lot of people that are leaving corporate. And this person was a doctor. I have a friend who's same route that you went through. She runs her own company, accounting, and she's within the Toastmasters space. And she's like, hey, I want to leave this accounting thing, but in between, let me find, a rich man that can, help me and do things. So I think you've done something that's very phenomenal that a lot of people want to do. At the age of 18, we choose what we want to study. And most of us are confused. And now that becomes your identity for 20, 80 years until you retire.
I beg to differ.
Yes, please differ and tell us about that story in terms of that. Yeah.
It doesn't have to. Yeah. I do not believe, and I'm fortunate enough that I think the lessons that I've learned and that I carry are also from my coach, the person who's coached me. Just to give you the concept, and I do believe that as people, we aren't on this earth to just be one form and shaped only into doing and being one thing. We are multifaceted. We literally are an onion, and there's so much of us if you would allow yourself to peel off and see what is there to you. And the same thing even in the career. In as much as, and I always, now in hindsight, I think we put so much pressure on 18-year-olds to make a decision that, yes, is like a lifelong decision. And I saw this when I went to university. The people that were privileged enough to do gap years were so more in tune in knowing who they are and in the decision they made of what to study versus us who went straight. And again, we all come from different backgrounds. Some of us, we had to. You're the first person to go to university in your family. This is going to happen. Like it or not, it's going to happen. But even if it does happen, I want people to always be open to, it's never too late to pivot. It's never too late to change. It's never too late to learn something new. So my coach is a forensic lawyer. Okay. She studied and she did this whole thing. She went up to the top. I think she was on like the top 200 Forbes women under 35 and all of these things. She had made it. She was a director. She was there. And she decided to leave it and say, no, I'm going to become a coach. And she did, and everybody was just like, are you mad? How could you leave? You've made it. And I mean, she was sitting in top special investigating units in South Africa and so forth. She had, out there. And she became a coach. And I think 2-3 years after coaching, she then was like, nah, all right, I think this is okay. I don't see the scalability. I'm going to move. And she pivoted again and she became a farmer. And she went and she became a farmer and she was in farming. And then a while after that, she was like, no, I want to go do my MBA. And now she has done and completed her MBA, and she is in a space where she's using her skills as a forensic lawyer to assist people, in getting back land and so forth. So for me, it's layers and everything adds on. And personally, in my life as well, it doesn't mean that when I pivot, I disregard the skill that I've had. So, and the example for that is I'm currently an accounting lecturer at a higher learning institution, part-time.
Can you do my books?
Conversation for after the podcast.
Okay, that's still there. Okay.
But yes, you see, so I'm still using my acquired skills, my knowledge of this accounting, because I never stopped being there because I hated it. It's just the calling of something else became stronger than this one.
Okay.
So life leaves you breadcrumbs, as my coach would say.
Okay.
And if you look back, life has left you different breadcrumbs. And in as much as you didn't follow them, but what you then did acquire can be used
somewhere
in the
else.
space that you're in. When I tell people what I've studied and so forth, the reality is it still opens doors. It opens doors in areas that are not even accounting, but it's because of the type of training that I've received, that people have so much trust in the training received during accounting articles and so forth, that people are like, this person, they can be a strategic thinker, they are critical problem solver, all of those elements. The pivoting, I think we can be multifaceted, and I don't know, next year I might be something else.
Okay, so I hear the theory, right? And I'm not dismissing the theory. We want to know how. Tell us, what steps did you take?
I don't think I necessarily took steps. Okay. And I have to be honest to you again, because the spiritual element to me plays a huge role.
Okay.
And it really did. So when I say to you, at the beginning of 2022, when I was about to leave corporate, the first day of the year, right after New Year's, I drove to work. And everything, Kofi, in my fiber said, it's time to leave. I wasn't applying, but I had the strongest belief. And that's why I do believe that people we don't spend enough time listening to our real desires. And so we become misguided as well. So because I am fortunate to be so in tune, I knew something is coming. I didn't know what. Okay. And then in March of that year, I got a text from my current boss, the CEO of Novalo Learning Center, Zanele Maduna. And she said, when are you joining Novalo? And I was like, okay. I had a 3-hour breakfast, and a 3-hour breakfast by the 1st of July, I was an employee of Novalo. Yes, it was a huge financial cut. And those are the difficult decisions, because you're going to a small managed business. Okay. There isn't so much deep pockets like, an audit firm and so forth. But again, it all depends on what drives you. And if money drives you, that's okay. And I have people who are driven by money and so forth, then happiness. Okay. But we all have different things, because some people are not driven by money and then they become miserable in the spaces that are driven by money. You just need to find what works for you and how you can do this. And for me personally, what has really helped is having a coach. Having a coach unlocked things in my life that I never knew. It was through having a coach that I started my own nonprofit organization, Ignite a Dream. Something I've always wanted to do, something I've always had the desire of, but just sometimes you just need somebody to just give you a bit of a push. And also having the right mentor. Don't force a mentorship relationship. Like I said, with any, there needs to be alignment. Get the right mentor for you who understands who you are. And I was fortunate and blessed that I had that. And then the other element to this introspection, which very often as people we run away from, go to therapy. Every human being, go to therapy. Because, yes, it's a tough one.
You know why? When I went to varsity, psychology was what I wanted to do. And I'm like, if I had done this thing, because the world that we live in, it's not. But I'm just saying the world that we're living is back then it was some of a taboo thing, and now in the space where if you're not going to therapy, there's something wrong with you.
So my dad, in his career at some point, under a lot of stress and things were hectic at work and so forth, and then he was referred to go see a therapist. And after the journey that he had with the therapist, very traditional African man, my dad came back and said to me, yeah, this thing is not a luxury, hey? Every human being needs to do this thing. And to get that and for him to understand the importance of therapy, I'm like, anybody can understand, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the behaviors, the things that we action are because of something in the past.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be bad, but for me, that was the three elements that really helped me to make the decisions, transform, pivot. And even now, it is still such a great support structure that I have in my life.
So if I'm up to sum the journey that you've been through, one, you need to fundamentally get a skill, get a reputation. I think that's the one thing that you're saying, have something. Secondly, there were how, I guess, Steve Jobs talks about connecting the dots. And as much as you were doing certain things in varsity, they built a different type of personality within you. And then secondly or thirdly, the next step was relationships and having people that would be able to advise you, being the brand that you are, specifically adding value and making sure that people are willing to take a risk in you and invest in you specifically, and that assisted from a transition perspective. Now, what does Nomvalo Learning Center do?
Okay. So at Novalo, we are an accredited skills development provider, and we specialize in study skills, work readiness, as well as psychosocial support. So when we say study skills, it isn't technical. So it's not like we teach accounting or whatever, but what we coach on instead is the elements that are often overlooked. And I always look back and I was like, if I was at university and I knew this, things such as procrastination, what are study strategies, your study habits, exam techniques, all of that. So that is what we talk about when we say study skills. And of course, work readiness is more for your final year students in terms of how do they prepare for the place of work, CV writing, your interview preparations, all of those type of things, building a personal brand. A lot of time people think a personal brand is for them. No. That's why the people that I went to university with, I don't think it surprises them, the space that I'm in. Even from university, it's like the brand identification was already there. And then when it comes to the psychosocial, we all know how stressful studying can be, being in university, all of that. So how do you push yourself and your confidence back if you've experienced that? And that's why, as an organization, those are the areas that we feel are important to really get somebody to their optimal and best self that they can go into the place of work.
The first two that are probably simple in the normal person understanding.
Yes.
Psychosocial. What is psychosocial?
So psychosocial is more focusing, and there we have, of course, experts in the space of psychology who come through to deliver those coaching. So we don't just put anybody in that space, because, of course, it can be a very sensitive area. So when we look at your psychosocial topics, we look at things such as managing your anxiety or exam anxiety, academic anxiety per se. How do you build your resilience? How do you manage fear of failure? Because it becomes a very real thing that people are held back by their fear of failure. So those are the different spaces in terms of your psychosocial. And of course, for us as an organization, we do have caretakers who check in on our beneficiaries or the students, as what we call them, to see where are their mindsets at this point in time, because we realize that it's more than just the technical that the lecturers, the tutors can provide to these students.
So I understand your why, right, in terms of you getting to that space. But I'm just curious to understand the owner of the business.
Yes.
Why she started an organization of this.
There's a real deep story to that, and I wish you could have made it to our stakeholder event beginning of the year. It's not a story that she shares often, but it is a story based on her background, and she's a CA, so she's a now qualified CA, but comes from a very unprivileged background. And it was through that experience that she has used education as a tool to succeed and to change the life of not just herself, but also her family. And that is why the why at Novalo is to break the cycle of poverty through education. And this education that at Novalo that we instill is sort of an education that comes from the mindset. If I am able to change the mindset of a young person by equipping them with the right tools, I can potentially change the whole trajectory of this person's success.
You say you're a certified coach.
Yes.
Can you, how does someone become a certified coach, and then what happens? What is coaching too? Like,
So, I think I've touched on it, and today I was sitting in interviews, and very often there are 4 areas that people confuse. So people would confuse therapy, they'd confuse lecturing or teaching. Also, when it comes to, so I had to say therapy, teaching/lecturing, mentoring, and then coaching.
yes.
These 4 are always confused. And so when I explain to get to what coaching is, I often then go into all of these. So when we look at a therapy or counseling, it's something that, and somebody said it so well today, that it's from 0 to the negatives. So going backwards. So it's like, where are you now in your life? And therapy looks at where do you come from? Okay. And then when it comes to your mentoring, a mentoring relationship is somebody who is where you want to be.
Okay.
So it's a person who is in a career projection. They've taken that route in some way or shape or another, whereby you trust their guidance so that you don't make the same mistakes that they've made when you start out in corporate and so forth.
Okay.
So it doesn't often work necessarily that I can go and be a mentor to a doctor, because I've got no idea what that journey to becoming a doctor entails. Then we go to teaching or lecturing. That is really just sharing technical knowledge. And a lot of that is done with more of the instruction coming from the lecturer and not so much from the student.
Okay.
So when we get to coaching, we look at where you are from 0 to where you want to get to. Okay. And that is ultimately then, we look at where you are, where do you want to be? And what are the gaps between getting you from here to where you want to be? And we then provide you with tools to get you to that particular place. And that relationship is one where it's also of self-discovery on the side of the coachee, essentially, whether it's in a group setting, whatever, it's them finding out, because a lot of the time we have the answers in ourselves, even in therapy. It's like somebody just needs to pull it out of you. Do you understand? Unlike mentoring and lecturing, it isn't coming from I've got all the knowledge and I'm giving you all the knowledge. Coaching, and that's why coaching and therapy can sometimes be confused, and it shouldn't, because the expertise of therapy is very specialized, that these are people are trained and equipped with a whole different skill. And that's why as coaches, whenever you have a coachee and you realize that there's something here that I can't, it's not a me thing. That's why I said in the coaching and therapy, you need to know, is this something that needs to be sort of fixed or looked into from the past, or is it a future? And as soon as you're going into past, it's not your place as a coach. So there can be different kind of coaches, similarly to how there might be a voice coach. It's where you are now and you want to become this great singer. So what tools am I giving you? Practicing tools to get to where you want to get to.
2 days ago, one of the managers in my team were having a conversation about, my experience, some of the challenges. And she's the first person in the organization that said, hey, listen, let me help you with A, B, C, and D. So if she's saying she wants for me to learn how to influence, so that's her coaching me on learning how to influence or developing a different skill specifically.
So you can call it that, but remember that's why you said I'm a certified coach. Because also I think people need to not take it for granted to actually get the skill or be equipped with the skill of understanding the coaching and the coachee and coach relationship. Because you can also, again, do more harm. And I think I know this as somebody who coached before I got my certification and somebody who coaches after I got my certification. It just allows you, and a certification you can do, there are various institutions that do offer them, just to get an understanding of what it actually means to be a coach. You can also then take that up because there is an organization, Comensa in South Africa, it's Coaching and Mentors South Africa. So that you can become a member of them as well with that particular skill. So it is just important that you are clear and understand what it is that you are essentially doing, instead of, because again, you just need to be careful to know the lines between a mentor and a coach, which again, they very often can go over, especially if your coach is somebody in the field that you want to excel in. You can very often think it's one and the same.
I think, I've had a mentor once, and I've just had an opportunity for someone who said, hey, listen, let me coach you. And I was and I was a bit hesitant. I'm like, maybe I'll touch it next year. Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing by procrastinating it. But the person's within the organization, and I would maybe prefer someone outside of the organization. Yeah. But also the reality is that person is probably going to help me navigate the environment from a work perspective. So,
but that's not a coach then. That's why that.
No. Yes, maybe that's not a coach, but yes. I think that the challenge, how it came was, there's a certain challenge that I'm having.
Yes,
Therefore, okay, let me help you address something that will help you, if that makes sense. And the person time framed it is coaching and teaching you from an influencing perspective, and that's where the boundary happens specifically. Because now there's another thing called sponsor.
Yes, I was gonna say. I was like, be careful not to be touching on a sponsor. Yeah.
I'm also very curious to kind of understand more about you, family, that you've obviously mentioned. From the research and the things that I see on socials, it seems like you and your father are like joined to the hip.
Yeah, I think my dad and I do have a close relationship. I mean, I was an only child for the first 11 years of my life, and the firstborn daughter that he's had. And I remember in primary school when people would ask me, who's your role model? And my answer would always be my dad. Yes, I think my dad and I do have a very close relationship. Is somebody that I admire very much. And I also understand in the dynamics of our country, it unfortunately can be such a privilege to have a present father who's been there throughout your life and has been able to instill things. He's really a focal point of our lives, all of us in our family, inspiration. I mean, he ran the Comrades Marathon this year at the age of 57. Growing up, my dad was an athlete. He was running long distance, but at the time it wasn't feasible to have it as a career. And it was just such a great testament to a dream delayed and not a dream denied, to ultimately say, I've done this and I can do this. So that, those are just some of the principles that I learned from him, and very much so on how we treat people and how, any day things could change. In the privilege that we might have, you can never look down on anybody. I think it is through my dad's actions and not even necessarily teachings of saying. The actions speak so much louder in how I saw him treat security guards at his workplace, the cleaners. These are your colleagues. I don't care if they're contracted by another organization. The security guard at the gate is the same person. So, greet them. If it's your birthday and you're giving your whole team cake, do think about the cleaner who comes in to clean your office space every day, just really truly that element, because it's easy to teach by saying. It's something else to teach by your actions. By your actions, for it to be visible. And I think both my parents, that sense of community, even from my mom, she brings that element of sense of community. Wherever we move to, sometimes to my irritation, but my mom is the first person to say, does this street have got all the ladies in the street, meeting, getting together? Next thing, in the first year we lived there, we're going to a trip in December of all the families of the street. And it's like, yep, that's my mother. As recently as last week, she had a catch-up braai for all of these neighbors in a place we used to stay. They don't even, nobody lives there. But that sense of community and sense of belonging is an element that my parents consistently keep teaching me to have in my environment.
From my side, I come from an environment where, as long as I provided for you, that's okay. We don't need to have conversations about certain things. And what I've been doing, I guess, in my old age is I'm also struggling on trying to get to know my father a little bit more. But now some of the journeys that I've been doing, a lot of stuff that I never discussed with my father, opening up a business, I'm letting him know, this is what I'm doing. What is your advice? I'm out on this day. And I've realized even something as simple as relationships, I'm going to ask my friend who's struggling and figuring life
this
out.
Man has been married to this woman for all these years, and I'm not asking.
Yeah. So I never came from that environment, and I'm trying to cultivate something around it and the importance of that. And I think just,
And that's beautiful, Kov. And I think, something I learned early on in therapy is that we also need to afford our parents grace.
Yes.
Because they did the best that they could do with what they knew.
Yeah.
We are fortunate that we are taking it a step further, that we are getting all this knowledge about you need to build relationship. A father or a man is not just a financial provider, but still giving them that grace. It's something that I've also had to learn, because it's easy for us to say they would have done A, B, C, D. But again, that's why I say everybody go to therapy, because you will be shocked at the things you carry unknowingly.
Very, very, very interested to ask this question, and I'll come back to the father thing. You mentioned this thing called partners at work. Thulisile, is there a partner
in my life?
In your
yes, there is a partner in my life. Definitely.
Does he come to Toastmasters?
Yeah, he was a member for 1 year or so. It's his own commitment issues, but yes, my partner is a professional boxer.
But bringing that in the family and the partner, why I'm asking is, I've seen you at Toastmasters, we've interacted, and I'm just, in the last session that we were in, there was a lady and her husband was there.
Yes.
So I'm trying to understand from the support from a Toastmasters perspective, family relationship, how does that play out in your life?
I think everybody in my life, fortunately, the closest people are in great support of my Toastmasters. Okay. As I said, my partner did join, and we were attending meetings together. Different club, he joined his own club that he liked. I visited that club in support of him. So he fully understands what happens at Toastmasters. Okay. But also remember, I live and breathe public speaking. Okay. If that makes sense. I've taken the conscious decision this year to essentially to be paid for my services. So I used to do this for free. And then...
So you've learned how to monetize?
No, I've not learned. I'm learning.
In the process
I'm learning.
Okay.
Because it's a very difficult one.
No, it's a very
difficult one.
I don't know if I want to share my secrets and things, but that's one of the, apart from my goals,
yes,
that's one of the things that I want to be able to tap from a Toastmasters perspective. When I eventually get there, because now I've created my profile.
Yes.
My profile on WhatsApp, you'll see that's
I know. I am very well aware.
You're very well aware in terms of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the challenges from a Toastmasters perspective, much as we are there and people have different purposes. Some there are their organization, learn how to speak in meetings. Some people are there to monetize. And I feel that that's a gap that needs to be bridged from a supportive community, from a structure perspective, from a presentation, in people coming to teach people how to monetize that.
I think again, it's from I think at face value you can look at it and say Toastmasters doesn't do that equipping, but it's also about the network that you build. Because you'll uncover there are so many public speaking coaches in the Toastmasters environment who have all of this facilitation experience and how they've monetized it. It's also up to us to tap into that space. It's quite interesting, but I think it is so challenging when you go from I'm doing it for free. We're not even saying we're doing it for free. You know how people are like, hey, it's your uncle's wedding. Please, can you MC? It's this or that. Please, can you, and even when people call you up. And I think it's okay. It's okay when you are building your brand. It's sort of like in the entertainment industry. There are people who go and DJ for free in the beginning.
They have internships.
You have internships. So it's the same passage, really. But then they get up to a point where you're like, I'm actually good at this, and I think I've served my time in doing this for free. And also what I've also learned is there's different ways of compensation as well. And this I've learned from my coach as well after she got her MBA. She's like, especially when you start out, your intentionality is, remember, compensation. And compensation doesn't always need to be monetary.
And it doesn't always have to be now.
Yes, exactly. And that is a very important thing as well, because it's why it also depends. Like right now, if an NGO comes to me, and because of my values and so forth, I might be seen to say yes to them for free, but it's because what is the seed that I'm planting there? Do you understand? So that compensation comes in different ways. Is it going to be over time in changing people's lives, or is it in a space of it needs to be monetary now. And of course, the goal is to get to a point where I'm just giving you a rate card. If you come to me and you say, Thuli, I want you to MC XYZ, I'm like, this is my rate card, take it or leave it. I don't know if I'll fully be that person one day, but we'll see.
There are people that it makes sense to it.
Yes.
But judging from the conversation that we're having,
I don't think I'd be able to
you want to be
that.
able to serve, you want to be able to impact, you want to be able to.
So I'm also, and that's why even in that, there needs to be alignment in the things I say yes to, the places I go to MC, to facilitate. Is there alignment? And if there isn't, don't be afraid to say no, But again, it's about knowing yourself. And only when you know yourself can you start saying no to things that don't align with who you are.
My question to you now is, just from a parting perspective on this platform, right? Anyone that is listening, what advice would you like to give anyone? Just parting message.
Lean into your fears. So if you are a potential Toastmaster right now, if you are scared of public speaking, lean into that, because it is in the places that you are so terrified, so scared, that you may just soar.
I think I posted that 2 days ago. I don't know if you're...
I
posted on my WhatsApp status too that the part that you are most fearful away offers the most amount of growth for a person. Definitely. In terms of that.
That's how I've gotten here. I was scared of joining Novalo, leaving the audit firm, but I leaned into my fear. There's times where I've had to do speeches. When I entered contest, I was very scared the first time I did contest, but I leaned into fear, and you just never know what could be on the other side.
Okay. Meaning I'm going to see in Lesotho?
Definitely. Yes, we are going to Lesotho. Deposit has been paid, sealed, done. We are going to Lesotho. And I hope to see all other District 74 members in Lesotho. Yes.
Okay, cool. Thulisile. Yeah, I guess they say all good things must come to an end.
Sadly.
This is my first time, our first podcast. Yeah. We have an experienced person here, but very excited to have this conversation with you and for us to obviously pave this way. Mm-hmm. There is a longer term vision around what we are trying to do from a podcast perspective and to kind of make things a bit more digital. The slogan for this year is Catalyst of Success. And we've all got to be successful in different ways, and success is obviously defined by who, what, and when they want. And thank God that we live in a world now that we can have different types of success. And I think that the success that you've done in your career and what you're doing is amazing. And I am very blessed and honored to have you in my corner. I will see next year if we are going to be boxing together or if we are going to be sitting together and coaching each other to achieve success. I think I've played rugby, and teamwork is amazing, and those are the things that I kind of find from a Toastmasters perspective, the competition element of things. I'm very competitive, and it's kind of like elevated. And I think to be part of such an organization is amazing. I sometimes ask myself, why are these people here? What is it about some people? And listening to you, who is a leader in her own, is part of this non-profit organization, is paying her fees, is empowering people, and it says something about Toastmasters. Yeah,
pay it forward. Pay it forward. This year I had the privilege of paying membership for another member. Not. And I think we must literally pay it forward.
It's membership renewals.
You are not the person.
I'm not the person. I never said it. I never brought myself into this.
But it's all about listening. Listen to your spirit. Your spirit says, do this, be obedient. You don't know the blessings that will wait for you on the other side.
Okay. Stay blessed, Thulisile. Thank you very much. And thank you all for listening to our first official episode of Beyond the Podium from District 74. See you all in Lesotho and at the next episode.